Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Quite an exciting day here so far. This is a supplemental. Hold on. Meaning, how do I get the Oh, there's no chat. Okay, hold on a sec, everybody. Oof. Okay.
Hello?
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Is that Jerry?
Yeah, that's me.
Welcome to the
Hey.
stream.
Your mom's doing okay?
Everyone's okay.
Poof. I was worried because she's like on a mountain.
Yeah, everyone's okay.
Sorry, I shouldn't probably not be talking about that right now. But
It's alright. If you guys are wondering, I'm in Taiwan. And there was just a major earthquake here. 7 point something. Off of the central coast of Taiwan.
have you seen the pictures?
I've only seen one of like the building that fell over. But that's in Hualien, which is the eastern city. So, is that what you're talking about? The building that fell over?
Yeah, it's like scary looking, man.
Yeah. I got some comments on that. Oops.
Cause like Ivy's brother Howard.
Yeah.
His he's got this like his studio room, right? And he's got all these empty beer cans, like
just they all fell off.
Like a wall of beer cans. Yeah, they were all on the ground. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean that's.
He can rebuild.
Hey, what's up, Sean? That's right. He has a whole wall of like. He has a whole wall of beer, right? Of like cans. Yeah. That he collects.
It's like that frat boy thing to do, the college frat boy thing.
Kind of, but I guess in Taipei it's more. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it was kind. I was doing some work, and it was a very long earthquake. I think probably one of the longest. Which is that's if anything, that's probably the most scary part, is because usually in LA I've experienced a few, and you know they last like they're very quick, like a few seconds, and then but this one was quite long, because you never know when it's gonna end, right? And you think it's gonna end, but then it just keeps going, and it was pretty like it was very smooth. It wasn't like how do you say I've been in other ones in LA where it felt like a truck hit the building. You know, it was like very violent. This one was like a smooth, like a massage almost. So, how did you guys hear about it? I mean, was it all over the news or?
For me, it's just from Ivy's family. It's just you know, they woke up because of all the cans falling and everything.
Well, I guess that's a good earthquake deterrent. Or what is surprising was that there was no alarm.
I found out from Dr. Midnight.
Oh, really?
Because he put something in Discord.
Actually, I was
Taiwan. What happened?
Yeah, I was going over Dr. Midnight's comics, and I was like doing a writing like a review thing, and when the earthquake happened. So very interesting. So
Dr. Midnight's work or the earthquake?
both. So I don't know if Dr. Midnight is he on right now? Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Does he want us? Does he want me to go over the thing, over his comic on stream, or because I'm kind of I'm writing it up, like I'm drawing some stuff on Procreate. So it's up to him. I don't know if he wants people to, because it's going to be a pretty public thing. So it's up to him.
Maybe he'd probably like to change it before everyone sees, right?
Yeah. So it's up to him. I think today, obviously, I'm in Taiwan. My cousin is staying at my place in LA. So he hasn't texted me yet, but we will. I guess we'll do the usual kind of sparring, and then was that Ivy in the background?
Who's watching the news?
I think that's Ivy.
Sorry,
in the background.
yeah. It's just they're everyone's going crazy with this Taiwan talk.
Why is she?
Maybe I should get off so that doesn't bother everyone.
It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's been I've seen some pictures of like furniture falling over, but outside of that, it hasn't really been. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to downgrade it for everybody, but
I'm wondering, do earthquakes ever really take many lives?
yeah. I mean, I think it all depends on the areas, right? Because, like, of course, in Taiwan, everything has to be built to code. So I think a lot of the buildings that do fall down tend to be older ones, and like Taipei 101 is built specifically to withstand a direct earthquake hit. There's like a pendulum in the building, inside the building, that goes all the way up.
Well, ironically, if you get really, really old, like the pagodas were also built for earthquakes, but it was after the pagodas where it goes into that Western rectangular style structures, and those were not good. So now they've gone back to using science.
Yeah, and there's a lot of architecture here that's a little wonky. Like the building that fell over, it's like half circular, not even half, but like the street corner version side of it is like circular, and the rest of it is like rectangular, if that makes any sense. There is a distinct kind of style of is that my I've been hearing some like emergency vehicles in the background this morning, but anyways, there might be there's been a couple aftershocks, so there might be another one while I'm on stream, which might be interesting. So if we cut off, then we'll see.
I wonder, does everyone on stream even know about your architecture background?
Yeah, yesterday, the other day, I posted I put up a post on Instagram saying that I'm going back to school. A lot of people fell for it. It was a silly April Fool's. Yeah, but there were a lot of people were like, "Well, hey, congratulations!"
Never too old to learn.
Right, never too old to get your degree. And so, well, anyways. But everything seems fine. There's Dr. Midnight. So what did Dr. Midnight say? This is an old KOBE drawing, but I'm just cleaning it up.
Okay. Cool shoes.
I'm cleaning it up because I want to make stickers out of this. So, anyways, a lot of stuff has happened in the comic book industry these last couple of weeks, last week or so, last 2 weeks. I took a week off last week because I was in transit to Asia. And I don't know if you guys want to talk about it or if it's just still too early. Yeah. Um, I was gonna make a comment about the building that fell over in Taiwan. I'm sure there's probably some right-wing people in the U.S. that will blame DEI for it. Don't you think that? Huh?
It's funny. It's like if you like knock over like a salt and pepper shaker and take pictures of it.
Yeah.
And
Dr. Midnight just gifted.
Oh, Dr. Midnight. Thank you so much. To Tear Right Out, All Nerds Pod, Road Sodas, Tooth, Big Ray 4. Thank you so much, Dr. Midnight. Did Dr. Midnight say, did he want to do it online or no? Oh, okay. If you want to do it online, I mean, I have like the first 3 pages. I looked through most of the books. I had some downloaded in LA, but then I guess I forgot to download them on my iPad, so I just quickly got some down today. But let me kind of go through it real quick. It's gonna be what I think a lot of the comments or notes I'll have on the story or on the pages really are things that I think can be easily revised, and some of it is really just taking a moment to step back. Also, Simple Man's here. I don't know if Simple Man wants to, because he had a story too. If Simple Man wants to go over his stuff. So I think while today I'm not set up to draw in person, I'm probably going to do, I think we're just going to do, does someone have their volume on? Or is it a reverb?
Is that coming from the people in my apartment?
No, like, do you have
we don't hear echo. Oh, I don't.
Oh, it's probably me.
Do you guys hear
It's
my
me.
wife talking
It's
to
me.
Bernard's aunt?
Yes, we hear that.
Okay.
It's
Maybe I should hop off. I know that must be annoying for everyone.
That's all right. Well, it's up to you. That was me on the reverb, so sorry. I'm still, technical difficulties on my
I'm
end.
gonna head out of here. I'll stay in the chat. I'll just do the chat with it and
Okay.
spare you guys from the nonstop.
It sounds like they're arguing.
So,
What are they arguing about?
no, they're just very excited.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'll see you guys in the chat.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Bye, Jerry.
Hey, look, someone out and someone came in.
I snuck in.
So, apparently this earthquake is creating, there's no concerns for Japan, but Japan has been getting some earthquakes recently too. So there could be some seismic activity happening here in the...
You guys are on that Pacific Ring of Fire.
Yeah. Well, Taiwan is known to have earthquakes.
My mom left Taiwan for the United States because she's afraid of earthquakes.
Oh, really? Oh.
Mm-hmm.
But she landed in La Jolla, California, and then hightailed it all over to the East Coast because she's so afraid of earthquakes.
I mean, they're just so, unexpected, right? There's no warning. And then, again, the thing with today's earthquake was that it was kind of long. I want to say it was like 30 seconds, which 30 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but when the whole room is kind of like shaking and moving, and you don't know when it's going to, you think it's going to stop, and it doesn't, and it keeps going, that's where it gets a little weird. Let me see in chat, Lurky Lurk, Simple Man, Dr. Midnight, James Quo, DYO Pickle. Good to see everybody. There's Courtney, Jeremy Joe, Big Ray 4. How are you doing? So, yeah, because in LA, I've been through a couple of earthquakes in LA. There have been a few that have been quite memorable. Usually it's the longer ones. And the longer ones, again, I mentioned earlier, there was one where it kind of like a bus hit the building, a truck like rammed into the building. That's what at least it felt like. And today was like a very smooth rolling. There I am with the upspeak. With the very smooth rolling type of earthquake. It almost felt like I was getting a massage. But yeah. Anyways, Courtney, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad you made it okay.
Yeah.
Except for the earthquakes. That's not fun.
So
I usually sleep through them because they're usually at night, I feel like.
yeah, I was like, I was sitting here at the table drawing, and then it started moving, and it was like, oh, it was kind of a little bit bigger than normal, and then I woke up my girlfriend, and she was like, hurry up, let's go downstairs. And I had these earphones on that I was like taking off, and I couldn't get them into the right slot. Anyways, now she's mad at me. So, Sean, you done with your secret project?
A secret project. Yeah, it's all wrapped up.
It's all wrapped up? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's the Morocco soccer comic.
Right. Oh. And
that you did a cover for.
Did they color it already, or what's going on?
It's being colored now, and I think they're putting in the text. It's very wordy. Might be in Arabic and English.
Now, is Arabic, is that written longer than English? Meaning,
I have no idea. It's very pretty looking, but
yeah.
I don't know how that writing system works.
Anybody
like
in
a
chat?
couple of squiggy lines and some diamonds.
Carson McKinney's here. Carson is still down in Georgia, or is he back in the Northeast? Jamie Odell, what's up? Yeah, so I think everybody here is okay. It all depends on, I think, really the people on the East Coast, of Taiwan. It's facing the Pacific.
Historically, do you get earthquakes where you are? Because it's on a different coast.
In Taiwan, yeah. I mean, I think earthquakes.
Because the last one was in the same city.
Yeah, it was in the same eastern. Yeah. So, I think because there's a tectonic plate or something on that. What do they call it? The
Oh yeah, it has the plate, a tectonic plate.
Yeah. So, but it could technically strike anywhere. So, it's not just limited to that eastern coast.
Is that what makes all those hot springs? I mean, you have like some access to the molten part of the earth, so I'm just wondering if that's related at all to earthquakes.
Maybe. I do think. I mean, there are definitely where I'm at in Taipei. This is the hot spring central area, but it's not the entire island has hot springs. I don't think. Although the eastern coast also does have hot springs. I don't know if Hualien is known for hot springs. There's a town or district that's a little bit north of Hualien called Yilan. That one, they also have hot springs and whiskey. So,
Party City.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, I still gotta get reference to fix this sneaker. But let's jump into fault line. There it is. Thank you, Superman. Let's jump into a little bit of this. Is what was this book called again? Dr. Midnight. This specific book. Now it's a little blurred because resizing images in Procreate is not great. But I wanted to point out a couple of oaths and bonds, right? So
very hard.
So here we are with this opening sequence of this guy driving a car, and I think as he's driving a car, two sequences kind of like looking over, or is he driving a car? So part of it, what was confusing, and I wanted to mention right off the bat, was that this initial sequence, there were some interesting things about it, but at the same time, there was also some things that were a little bit confusing. So in terms of storytelling, I don't know if you meant for it to be confusing. And in this sequence here, where we start off with a guy in a car, it looks like he's driving, and he's looking, and as he's looking around, the third panel is what kind of made it confusing for me, was because I thought the first time I saw this that this was his car. And then here, this car, I guess it says it's blurry, but it says screech, right? And it comes to a halt, and this guy, I'm assuming, is him, the guy with the baseball cap, like kind of leans out his window and flips the first person off. And then in the second page, a truck comes down the road and smashes into the guy who was given the finger. And here our initial driver, looks and gets out of the car. As he gets out of the car, he walks. Like, this is an interesting sequence because to me, it's almost like a dream. He gets off and he walks, and then he sees the guy, the trucker hat guy, on the ground. They have a couple of dialogue sequences, and then ultimately we jump to another sequence, another story. So there's a little bit of a mystery, there's a little bit of kind of a fantasy element, or a psychedelic element, but off the bat it's a little bit confusing in terms of the who and where and what. So when I say that, Sean, do you have any notes you want to say just by looking at this initially?
Well, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I did think that car in the third panel that's going down the road was the same car as in the first two panels. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah. So because of how they're located, because of how they're located, we think that this is his car. Also, how it's drawn. We don't really get it would have been good if we saw this guy, the main driver, in the driver's seat. I think this is him, right? And so, I would say choose different cars right off of the bat. Make sure that they're probably in very different kind of cars, because right away, many different kind of cars, meaning like one's in a Mini Cooper and the other is in a SUV, right? Or one's in a SUV and the other's in a sports car or something that really stands out. So right away, visually, because this is a black and white comic, visually we already know that it's two different cars, right? Also, that way too, when you're drawing them, you can reference the cars, you can use picture referencing, and so you can get a little bit more accurate, because when we zoom in to these two images here, again, we'll see these two different cars, but when the details are so small but because this looks like a sedan, right? But then yet when it comes to here, this panel, it looks almost like a sports car because of how the back goes down. So it's almost like a hatchback, which is very different than here. These two. Now I'm being very nitpicky, but these are all elements that I think that are crucial in storytelling. So even in this panel, if I were to not change any of the paneling, I would say for this one, I would even go into something where we see in the foreground our main hero, so that we can tell that this is now we're kind of sitting in the back behind this guy looking at, and probably want to see his hands on the steering wheel, right? And you can make his car a little bit smaller. Something like
this
that.
This is a tough sequence anyways. Like, I mean, it'd be hard to pull off. And you really have to be on your A game to make this not as confusing. I do this thing all the time, and I think you did a good job. But then people will read it, and it's like, oh, I thought that was the other car. And then I see what they're talking about. Oh, yeah. Because I wrote the story, I know what's what, but it didn't communicate. This is something that would trip up a lot of people.
Right. I mean, anything with cars or moving objects in comics is extremely difficult. Car chases, car sequences, it's very different. It's very, very difficult because the car is moving. In your mind, when you're writing it A, and then when you're thinking about it B, you're thinking about the car moving. But when it comes down to an actual 2D still image, it's very, very difficult to convey. The other reason I thought this guy and our main proponent, let's call it, what was this guy's name, Dr. Midnight? The guy in the main car to begin with? Let's just say character A.
Julio Iglesias.
Julio? He said it's Julio?
Julio Iglesias.
Okay, let's say it's Julio. All right, let's say it's Julio. Julio, right? Because the shadowing, you see the shadowing on the windows, right? This is panel 1, this is panel 2. The shadowing on the window, or the reflection on the window, is different. I'm thinking you're using that to convey movement. And as this car, as he's driving, then I'm thinking, okay, and then since it's 1, 2, 3, we're seeing the front windshield, front windshield, front windshield. To me, there's a repetitiveness to that makes me assume that this. Oh, here's another aftershock.
Whoa, is it happening?
Yeah, there's another aftershock. So that this is the same car, right? And that this also becomes the same car, because they're all still moving in a similar direction. Again, if this was in color, you can probably, color this red and then that blue, and it would solve it in a way. But, Bubba, are you okay? Yeah. Okay. The other tidbits or notes that I would have. Did you guys see the cameras move?
Yeah. You don't have like a tsunami warning near you, do you?
Well, I'm on the northwestern coast in Taipei. So the eastern coast of Taiwan gets a lot of they get the typhoons, they get the earthquakes, and most of the population in Taiwan is on the western coast facing mainland China. With most of the population in Taipei. So on the eastern coast is smaller towns, and villages. Jerry says maybe some speed lines on the road, panel 3. There's still a little shaking. Yeah, so there's a little bit of so is he stopped at the red light, or is he stopped at a stop sign? Here's another thing you can do, like if there's a stop sign, right? Maybe there's a stop sign here, or there's a reflection of a stop sign on the window.
is there a way to get like an aerial establishing shot of the intersection with both players in place?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a boring panel put there, but it kind of shows you the lay of the land, and then you can move in closer after that.
Like I might do, if we started out, I might. Oops. Oh, shoot! I drew on the wrong page. What I might do initially is, given the context of, so that's a good note, Sean, where if we had some kind of like, if we started with an overall sequence establishing shot, and where are we to begin with, Dr. Midnight? Are we in Iowa? Are we in
the Scary Woods?
Scary Woods? Are we in?
It's wherever Julio Iglesias is from.
In Miami? He's in Miami.
Courtney drew people in cars, right? It's not easy, the car stuff. Just so people know, whenever I draw cars like that, especially when they're over and over again in the story, it's all traced. So just pick very common, popular models of cars, and then just use a Google image search, and you'll get like 100 different views.
Yeah, I think making them look like they're moving and there's certain aspects, or there's really no point in trying to draw freehand like a car, but you don't have to do that.
Plus, you have those 3D files and stuff that help.
Yeah, that'd be really nice. But getting making so it looks like they look more natural on the road.
Yeah,
Sean, this is not Rippaverse Comics. Did you hear me? This is not this is not Rippaverse Comics.
Well, I think there's a difference between tracing and then tracing with style.
Yeah.
I did that Wingman comic. Every single car, the car is an important player in that comic. Every single car of that Mini Cooper was traced, but you have to make it kind of integrate and marry with the rest of with the art. And then if it sticks out, if car looks brand new, or the lighting is just not right, then it looks weird. But if it is hard to trace properly.
If you don't get like a curve right on a car, it won't look like the car you're trying to draw. So it's I don't know. It's a little different, because it's such a usually a unique model, unless you're trying to draw like a sedan or something, random. It could look like a Volvo, or it could look like a Camry. Like, it doesn't even, whatever, if that doesn't matter to you. It's not like buildings where, Sean can draw buildings and backgrounds and stuff, and maybe, look at one and be like, oh, I can, draw this one. But yeah, I think vehicles are a little harder, and motorcycles too, because if it just wouldn't look, it's trying to get it look natural with a human being. So
the first part of here, like if we start out with an establishing shot, now this is a fairly big establishing shot. We can probably make big. It, but I don't mind it being that big. But
it's kind of unfortunate because that establishing shot is like a diagram. It's usually the least sexy part of the story. And then so like Jim Lee would try to make those establishing shots, like the Seattle skyline, to put it in a tiny vertical panel the size of a postage stamp, so that you can focus on like the big punch or something, like the money shot. So this is not a money shot, and it takes up a lot of space. But sometimes you've got to weigh clarity versus dynamics. So in this situation, you're not drawing two people talking in Starbucks, which is very easy to figure out. This is like choreography here, so you might lose a lot of real estate towards just exposition type panels that just show everything.
It really sets the scene though in like a much better way. Especially at the beginning of a comic, either you have that first panel, either that or something like really dynamic happens. Let's say this guy gets in a car accident, and it'd just be like really, quick, and then you want to like exit out, and then you kind of go above or something like that. So I don't know. in mangas, I think it's, they show, they use a lot of it, and then they kind of go more minimal. So then they don't have to worry. They do that first shot of like an environment, and then they go like really minimal background. So even if they're in the car, they don't really have to show like that, do a lot of details with the woods around them or something like that. They would just kind of go more blur, or even leave it empty sometimes, but you still know that they are in that environment. So I think that's differs a lot with manga versus like American comics, where you really keep that scene, whereas like you can get away with leaving this out. Like, yeah, you don't have to draw every tree in your background from then on. You did all the heavy work in the beginning.
So this is Sean's what Sean was talking about. Like if Jim Lee were to lay this out, he'd probably have that small insert panel here, and then we start with a big, nice shot of our hero, Julio Iglesias. Is it Julio Iglesias or is it just Julio? Elio.
Julio Iglesias.
Elio Iglesias?
Iglesias. Julio's twin. Okay. The evil one.
Yeah, and then see that minimizes the diagrammatic panel that could be boring, but you can also think about leaning into the establishing shot. Like there are some people like I don't know, like there are some artists that really take that establishing shot and make it the whole page, and then draw every single tree, and that becomes impressive from a whole different standpoint. So I think what you want to do is at halfway. It's not so big and it's not so small. It's just kind of there. So either minimize it, because it really is just a diagram just to show you where everything is, or maximize it and just make it like an aerial view where you draw like 100 trees. So when they open the book, they're like, wow, they're just it's breathtaking, the aerial view. Mm-hmm. But just make it interesting in some way.
Right. So, what Sean's saying, Dr. Midnight, is that this is a point of your own storyteller's choice. How do you want to tell this story? Right? If we start off with this big image or big wide shot where we see the forest.
Panel.
Right? Yeah, it's a very quiet panel. The reader, you make the reader focus on, we're kind of in this quiet, quaint Massachusetts rural area. A lot of trees, a lot of nature. There's not a lot of cars on the road. There's just one little car coming down the road. And so it's a very peaceful opening. Where at the end, and then at the end of the page, the guy's flipping the guy off. And then also the next page, boom, big truck hits him. Right? Because the flip of the page. That is in itself a storytelling component that you have to make the decision of. Now, the Jim Lee or the more dynamic superhero version, where we start off with a very small inset and we want to jump right into the car, jump right into the action, that has a different dynamic. That has a different storytelling sensibility. So that is up to you, Dr. Midnight, or whoever else is drawing the story or your own story, to decide how you want to tell the story. Right? And this is the main difference too. Like Sean and I will get the same script, but we will draw it in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways because of how you want to pace the story.
There's a Frank Miller, I forgot what it was from. Was it Daredevil or Born Again or Batman Dark Knight? There's a scene like that's from a staircase from above, where it's like the staircase that goes all the way down. It's the same idea. It's an aerial view that shows where everyone is, but you're looking downward and you can see all the SWAT team members like going down or up the stairs, and that's like a diagrammatic panel that's just there to show you where everyone is. But that becomes the most memorable panel in the book, depending on how you handle it. So.
Yeah. So I think it's important to, you have to decide, right? So on one hand, Dr. Midnight, you're writing the story. And I'm sure when you're writing the story, you have all the images in your head. The next thing is to go then switch from being a writer, where you have the information for you, and then move to kind of being the storyteller, which is how do you want to show the story? How do you want to lead the reader on this journey? How do you want to tell them? Do you want to surprise them? Do you want to give them everything up front? Or do you want to make them kind of learn as we go? And that's only up to you. I mean, you can only make the right decision. There's no right or wrong. But you have to make that decision. So if we go from the Jim Lee style, where we start off with a small opening establishing shot, we move to a closer of our hero, side profile, stopped at the stop sign. As we pull back, maybe as he's stopped at the stop sign, we see a car racing down the road. And then I would say we can probably do what else would you do on this third panel or fourth panel here, Sean? I think this is another one. This is another one where
what is that? Julio Iglesias?
This is the okay. I could do it in 3. And some of this too is I really don't like putting into doing this kind of panel construction just yet. I would like you to choose the images before you come into the panel, but for the sake of just timing, I'm not contesting a lot of the layout. Oh, there's another aftershock. I think it's going to be all day. You guys see this? So this is the back of the car. We can see obviously the red light. We can see some smoke. Screech. You want to do the lettering. And here's Julio's car. And then from here, I would say this last one. I would like to
finger shot.
Yeah, but I would like to see from inside Julio's car, and then maybe a little bit of Julio's reaction. Again, we can cheat his angle. Is he surprised at the guy?
So in every single panel, you're showing both cars. Both
pretty
players.
much.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you can go in. Every time you add another element, it starts to water down the point. It's very clear because you know where everyone is, but there is a lot of power in just isolating a guy's face and his middle finger with nothing else.
Okay. Here's another layout possibility, but I would keep it.
So the panoramic is good for the slow burn type scenes, and then the vertical ones are for like a lot of crazy action happening.
I never thought about that, but that's so true.
Yeah, because you scan from left to right, so when you scan across, it's like very sleepy, very pastoral, and then the vertical ones, when you read left to right, you're through the panel in an instant because it's so thin.
I like the middle finger.
Julio. Look at that.
And what I would do is
girls you loved before.
Here's a little bit of tidbit here. Oops, okay, I'm trying to get all this information down. So if we're going to do this, we can also just do a close-up of the tire and then smoke, right?
It's the screech, hitting the brakes.
Here, this last panel, if the guy's giving him the finger, I'm not doing it profile. I'm doing it slightly 3/4, and this is the back of the car with the back of the road. So, if can you guys get this? Do you understand this angle? And here's the back of the road here, right? This road back here, and the reason being is I'm purposely leaving. I'm showing this at the end of the panel because we're reading right to left, so that on the next page the big truck comes in and smashes them. It's an Alfred Hitchcockian type thing. Hitchcockian type storytelling element, right? So these are, again, two different ways right now of telling the same story. Actually, three if we used your original version. But all of it is, I think, really begin to take a moment to sit back, think about what it is that you're drawing, the information. Again, understanding that, or going off the assumption that the reader is the dumbest person in the world. I'm always working on the assumption that the reader has never read anything before, doesn't know anything about comics, doesn't know anything about any of the characters. And so you have to spoon feed me every single information that you want me to know. If you don't have the information in there, it's because you don't want me to know just yet. If it's in there, it's there for a purpose. So if you exclude something, you're doing it purposefully. Sean, anything else?
Yeah, one thing I noticed about your take on it is that there's a lot more of the diagonals going on, and then also there's a lot more 3/4 views and two things. Like, I think in Dr. Midnight, you can see the first panel is a strict front, the second one is the same strict front, and then the third one is a diagonal, but then you go back to a side view and then to a side view. So it's perpendicular, very head on. And then the one you did, there's like aerial views, and then there's the road moves diagonally through the panel, and then there's a 3/4 view of a car. So I think that kind of happens when the more you draw, you get away from the perpendicular front on or side view, and you start doing 3/4 views and then aerial views, looking up, looking down.
What am I doing here? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so part of that too is just varying up the angles. Now again, if you wanted to keep it the same angle, you're creating a little bit of a rhythm or a beat. That's up to you. But Sean's talking about changing up the angle, moving the camera around, and then creating a little bit more of a dynamic kind of element without even being, again, these are all just squares and rectangles, right? There's nothing dynamic about the panel layout itself. So because we're all basically trying to just keep everything in the panel as exciting as possible or as not exciting as possible. And then the second page, if we move on to the second page, there's a big crash. Even in this crash, I would have liked to have seen, even though we see the guy coming out the window, somehow in there, where is Julio Iglesias? Where is this car? Now, when this is happening, what is Julio's expression? Is he shocked? Is he... Because right now, I guess he looks a little concerned. But the two that you have, the two times you've drawn Julio, he looks identical. And so is that on purpose? Is that he's not even thinking about it? or it's not shocking to him, or what is the reasoning for this? Sean, do you have anything to add on that?
Well, yeah, I don't know what, because he kind of looks like Arnold, but he's almost like a Terminator. He's like emotionless, like he's all about business, and that's kind of what's being conveyed. And I don't really think that's what's going on in your story. So, so it's tough to get the acting in there. I know the first decade and a half, I drew the faces all very generic, because if I started making emotions, it starts to really the drawing starts to get bad. So I didn't move the face around too much, but you should really go for it and then get the expression with the eyes and the mouth or whatever. Also, in that first panel of the other page, watch out for the tangents. There's, like the corners of the cars, and
You're talking about this.
You have four. There's three tangents on the with the car. Well, I mean, on the previous page with the truck crash.
Oh, the truck crash.
And you see like the bumper and the top of the car. Yeah, they're all just basically anchored onto the panel borders. So that's something to kind of have to watch out for.
Yeah, like
Hey-Flet.
It's impactful. What I would do in this case is like, look, I would, you could draw it out in different.
It is a tough panel to draw, like a car crash. It's hard enough drawing a car that's brand new, but then when it's crashing, how do you even?
Yeah. Do you have any images of the car being of car crashes or of truck crashing into a car? I would probably put the car at a diagonal and lifting it up in the air so that it's really trying to create, and maybe have it kind of crumpled. So the front of the car, where the guy's at, the flipper, is kind of normal, but maybe like a front wheel is tilted off of the ground, and then the back is all kind of like, and you can even probably have like I would have one of the tires pop out. And then this is the big rig. Crashing into the. So this is one angle.
Jerry suggested his middle finger gets severed and goes flying into the foreground of the panel. You're writing your own story, though.
Right, or if we're doing it.
That's his middle finger.
If we're gonna just keep the same angle that you had, let me see what you drew here again. Okay. And again, these are all explorations. Before you even draw on the comic book page, I would be drawing all of these different perspectives, all these different possible angles, instead of just going with the first one. Sean, when you do a layout, the first layout you come up with, that's what you go with, or do you?
Well, usually when I read the script, I do a little thumbnail that just basically captures the action in that panel, and it's usually very, very much a diagram, like those kind of like how to escape a burning plane type thing. Those diagrams you get in the seat back pocket, and then when I go to actually plan the page out, I try to capture that same idea, but then I have this checklist in my head. That checklist is like, is there an opportunity to move the camera up or down, and then do it? Is there an opportunity to get off of that side view and maybe do like a 3/4 view? Like if there is, then do that. And then also if there is a way to show movement, because by like you can, when a car crashes, usually the wheels never really leave the ground. But then in a comic, is there a reason to should you get the cars off the ground if possible, so that it kind of has more impact, more action. So I have this checklist of every single panel that I draw. Because usually, if it's just a face, I would draw a profile in the planning stage, and then when I go to draw, it's like, okay, well, should I do looking up at the face or looking down at the face? And instead of a profile, can it be a 7/8 or 3/4? And if there is a way to do that without harming the story or even accentuating the story, then you kind of have to do it, because you have to avoid it looking like that How to Escape a Burning Plane that's in your seat back pocket, because those are all diagrams, and they're there to convey information only and not there to look dynamic. So you really have to try to find the dynamic view every time you draw.
So, Dr. Midnight, is this helpful? Are you? Is he still on? I don't know.
He got disgusted. He's insulted.
Okay.
Okay, they said it's extremely helpful.
Okay.
That's good. I mean, we don't really know your story, so we might be taking it off of the point of your story, but you kind of get the idea of we're struggling as artists to find the most dynamic way to present something. And the only reason you wouldn't go as far as we do if it starts to harm your story. Like if we're making this a fender bender, turning it into a massive pileup, then what we're doing is wrong. But if there is a way to make it look interesting and still preserve your story, then you should go for it.
Yeah, because I have a feeling like a lot. You're trying to use the sound effect to really create that impact, and I think Sean and I are both under the training of like, let's not use sound effects to try to create the impact, but rather what it is that you're drawing, that for that image already to have as much force as possible without the help of anything else. So as I keep drawing, right here, this is a little bit more diagramical. This version here, the truck is just kind of going from right to left. This is a little bit more heads on. If I can use the arrow to, and then this one's a little bit combination of the two, and kind of creating a little bit more of a forced perspective. So I know when I first started drawing comics, again, Bob Layden would tell me, like, don't do the layout. Just draw the scene out first. Draw different scenes. Draw from different angles. The more you draw it, the better, the more different ideas that you might get. Now, I might want to go back to this version here. Let's say I did all 4 sketches. I might want to go back to this one. Well, you didn't lose, right? You have another scene that calls for something. So don't think about it as, oh, I'm wasting time. I didn't even use this. I went back with the original head-on kind of collision. That's cool. Don't worry about it. The more you draw right now, the better you're going to be later on. So efficiency is not really at question here. It's really about exploration. So the more you kind of draw all these scenes out first, then you can go back in there and figure out, and you're only going to get better the more you draw. Lastly, this last page, this third page, it's very interesting. Dr. Midnight, can you tell me what's happening in this third page? Is Julio Iglesias, is he shocked as he's walking to the guy? Because obviously you've devoted 4 panels to it, right? Then we have another 5-panel sequence where Julio's looking down at the trucker hat guy, the flipper guy. We go back to him again. Trucker guy's like, and then we go back to Julio and then back to him. Now, what is happening in this sequence? What is your intention? He's approaching the guy to watch him die. I wanted to show Julio is very cold. Okay, all right. So he's kind of slowly walking up to the guy that's on the ground. right? Now, is there a reason why you don't have background in these panels? Because to me, when I read this, the elimination of the background then takes me into more of this dreamlike world or a trance. No reason. Okay, so if there's no reason and we're still kind of in this moment, Sean, do you have anything you want to add, or?
I would think like without the backgrounds in any of them, really, it does look a little bit unfinished. I think that top panel really would only have one background that connects all 4 panels. And maybe, like, I think maybe your style is very linear, kind of like Jeff Darrow. But if he's like very cold, like if this is very like an eerie type panel where you get the sense that he is very, very cold and very stoic. And I think you capture that because he's kind of emotionless. But to make it creepy as hell, like maybe some lighting, like shadows or something, or silhouettes. It's very hard with ambient light. You know, like if you're watching a horror movie and they just had ambient light on all the time. You know, it's actually a good point. Like, is this at night or is it kind of during the day? But you can just know how lighting affects the mood.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming this is during the day, but and that's based off of how you've rendered the figures and how you kind of cast the line weight to create different shadows. But I do think I get what you're trying to do. However, there's also other notes too. Gutter width, gutter distance, right? So the first top 4 sequence where he's walking up, very strong vertical panels. I really like the sequence. But you have the width between the panels, the gutter space is all at different thicknesses. So I'm assuming you're trying to create a different tempo or beat. But at the same time, when I'm reading this, to me, right off the bat, I think either you didn't think about it or you didn't use it to its fullest extent, mainly because of the inconsistencies of the gutter space. So that this is thin right here between 1 and 2. Between 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 it gets thicker, but then between panel 4 and panel 5, between this sequence it's very thin. Between 5 and 6 is very thick. 6 and 7 is very thick. And in this sequence there's the horizontal gutter space is very thick. We get very thick again, but these don't line up exactly. 8, 9, and 10. There's 10 panels on this page. If we zoom in, and I'm being very, very nitpicky, but I see these things. And if you guys are looking to submit work to editors, they see these things too. 9 and 10 is not same. And then 9 and 10 is super thin. So why? If you're doing it for the purpose of expanding time or contracting time, I get it, but it's a little inconsistent. And if that's not your intent, then to me, that's a deterrent or detractant from me enjoying the story, for me enjoying the drawings, because now I'm looking at the gutter space. So I think, Courtney, in one instance, like in manga, a lot of manga gutter spaces are very wide, but manga is also very slow, very slow paced. Every page only has 3 or 4 panels at the most, whereas American Western
manga.
Also, another thing about manga is I think sometimes they have a reason for the gutter spaces. Like they would do the vertical gutter spaces are narrow and the horizontal ones are wide. And one of the things it does is it encourages you to read across, not go down. So there's got to be a reason why there's a different width of gutter space. And I see in this panel, I think it's a little bit jumbled because each one of those panels are a different size, like the first 4 panels. You can make them all the same size, but they're different size. And then there's the gutter space in between is also different. And then the gutter space between the verticals are different and the horizontals are different. And then the bottom 2 inset panels, they kind of end up being a little bit short.
I think I'm getting a case of the FLETCH.
In some of these, the intersection is very. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if the internet is getting a little boggled down. Yeah. So again, now, so originally the bottom 6 were the same size and gutter space. Change it in an attempt to have a different effect, right? And so then, now you're throwing in another kind of grammatical context into this communication. Look, storytelling is like you're communicating to somebody. You're telling someone a story, and you're telling someone a story using visual images, using drawings, right? Not like how we're communicating using English right now and a specific set of grammatical tools. Now, when you start changing up the patterns in which you're composing the images, then you're changing up the context of grammatical context. Sentences, paragraphs, pauses, all of that changes, noun, verb. So I like to discourage people from using graphic design as an element of storytelling initially, until you've really mastered the craft. And here, brought up, Golf Boy mentioned, the car fire could have some dramatic lighting, and in that case, also we can have debris as he's walking. He can walk past debris from the car, from the wreck, until we reach him in the foreground, right? And again, things can overlap since this guy's hand overlaps 2 panels. But at the same time, I think you would want to, again, when you're drawing stuff, here's what I am assuming is happening. All right, and I used to do this. So don't feel bad. I mean, you've drawn in the panels, right? You've drawn in the panels, the first 4 panels, and as you draw in the panel, now you've drawn this, or Julio Iglesias figure, and now you're drawing the trucker hat guy, right? And that's how you're drawing him. But you're not drawing him to his completion. You're only drawing within the panel, and that's not right. In a sense, you need to be able to figure out everything and see it all. And sometimes, like, again, when I first started, I wasn't skilled enough to only draw what was in the panel. And so I pushed myself to then draw the full figure, to understand where everything is. And as I did that, I could tell, the trucker hike guy, flipper off guy, is at a different perspective than Julio. Julio should actually be a little bit more down. And actually, trucker hat guy, his head should be a little bit bigger. And I would have, if I had drawn it all out like this, then, again, we probably would have seen Julio's feet a little bit more as we're looking down. And if that makes any sense. And then having one leg maybe back if he's still walking. So And if that's the case, then I'm like, oh shoot, I need to move him up. Wouldn't I rather draw this panel this way? And this is what I mean, like drawing the entire scene out first. Ish. So that I can move things up and down, right, to get the right placement. So really understand what it is that you're drawing. Don't just draw because you've already drawn the panel. Now you conform to that. Now you gotta just only draw what's in the panel. No, man, you gotta draw everything, especially at this stage. Try to sketch everything out. A great way of doing that, Sean taught me the Chris Sprouse way of drawing on the back of the paper and light boxing it, right? So Sean, you do that, right? Sean? Did I lose everybody?
You can kind of audition things, try things on the back, and then just commit to it on the front.
Yeah, and if you don't have a light box, get another piece of paper. Put another piece of paper, and then draw the rest of the figure on it, and then place it over on top, and then you can kind of move it around. But you shouldn't let the panel determine what you draw, because ultimately you should be drawing everything, right? So how you have it, the head is kind of barely there. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him, and then a little bit more, like, again, other details, other storytelling notes. Maybe his shirt is a little tattered. There's a little more blood on him. Maybe there's like a piece of I don't know, a piece of metal sticking out of his chest or something, or whatever else. What are other? And then here I can put stuff in the background. What are other things? Debris, right? That really kind of re-emphasizes the gruesomeness of the scene, because the guy just got massively.
Like his eyes open.
And his eyes open. That's a good idea, right? So now I want to see. Does he still have the smirk, or maybe he's lost a couple of teeth? Or maybe he's looking up at Julio. Right. So these are all, and I don't think what Sean and I are talking, Courtney's talking about, I don't think this is rocket science. I think these are all fairly within your ability to kind of figure out, storytelling wise. But it's a matter of slowing down and thinking about it a little bit more before rushing to drawing the final image or the final page. A lot of this is just it takes time, because storytelling is unique, because you tell it your way. So as opposed to rushing to get the drawing done, I don't think you're under a deadline right now, right, Dr. Midnight? I know Sean's under a deadline. I'm under a deadline. If I don't finish a page or a book by a certain date, that does not look good for me, and I might not get hired again, and I'm not going to get paid. But these are your own books. These are your own stories. So why are you rushing to finish them? Why not take the time and put the best work you can put out there. Because I think there's some good stuff. I mean, this opening sequence is very powerful, right? Starts off with a guy driving in the middle of nowhere in Massachusetts. All of a sudden, a car screeches to a stop in front of him, flips him off for no reason. Boom! Then a truck hits him, and Julio is like stoic, doesn't really change his tone. He walks up to the dead guy, or about the dead guy, stares at him, and then we cut to was it 5 years later or 5 years before? I forgot. Right?
Wow, this sounds like an interesting story.
Yeah. So there's a lot of interesting components to it, but I would just recommend really like flushing everything fully out, flushing out 15 years earlier, right? And flushing everything out, because then I'm thinking like, which one of these guys is the guy that just either flipped somebody off or was our Julio, our protagonist.
You know what might be cool for that sequence? Sanford Green talks about looking for cool angles and just kind of free associate, try to think of some cool angles to shoot in certain scenes. Like when the guy's walking up to the dead guy, like what if the camera was shooting from behind the guy walking and you only see between his legs, the space between his legs, and then there's a head there on the ground. And you know, I'm not going to use that, but just try to expand your mind and think outside the envelope. Come up with like maybe 12 different things and just pick one. But just as an exercise to get used to thinking of how to, you know, it's very like if you're looking between his legs, it's almost like a jail cell, and then the vulnerable man on the ground is like trapped, and that's just the camera angle giving you a certain uneasy feel. And then, you know, if the really close up from behind his foot, so you see just his heel or something like that, or maybe looking over the dead guy's face like it's a big mountain in the foreground, and then behind it the guy approaching where you can only see from his chest up. You know, it's like, so you're just different types of camera angles. And that's one thing that Sanford Green does all the time, is start out by looking to place the camera like he's like one of the Coen brothers or something filming a movie. Just find a camera angle that puts you off kilter a little bit and then is interesting to the viewer.
Here's another one. Just talking with Sean, right, brainstorming, gave me another idea of like, all right, what if we had a sequence of just eyes, and this is the flipper guy's eyes, right? And we go from
like he's paralyzed and only his eyes move.
Yeah, only his eyes, like he's paralyzed. Obviously, he's flown out of the car, right? Maybe like a little drip of blood or something, and the blood drips down. So showcases time. Time has gone by, right? So like if this was the first, and again, notice how I have not drawn any shapes of any panels. I'm just drawing images, right? Because I don't want to confine myself to a particular shape right now, or a particular panel shape. I'm just exploring images. So if we had an eye, there's a little drop of blood. The blood comes down a little bit. The blood comes down to the cuticle, right? But the pupil is looking down. Then it's looking up. Then it looks left. And as it looks left, we see the silhouette, reflection of Julio in his pupil, right? And then we can go.
And that drop of blood goes into his eye and then starts to fill it up with blood.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's a good idea, right?
Yeah.
And even that, like if the blood goes into his eye, you really begin to become even more uncomfortable, right? But
it's
if
like drowning.
Yeah. And then compound that with, if we go from this to an upshot of Julio looking down, but he's like emotionless, and he could be
looking up at him.
Yeah. And maybe
that gives him the power perspective, like, and if the sun is behind him, so he's like a silhouette or something like that, or the sun comes around his face or something like that, it could be kind of cool too.
Yeah. And then, or it could just be the fire from the wreck. The fire from the wreck is behind him. That's really, so maybe it's dusk. Maybe we need to rechange that. Instead of it being the daytime, you think, oh, it could be the dusk, and there's like like this upshot of looking at
or
Julio.
rising smoke or a fireball.
Yeah, and there's embers burning. Wow, how powerful is that?
And you're not going to really use any of these, but you, in case 1 out of 20 of these ideas sounds really cool, then at least you thought of it. You kind of left no stone unturned in coming up with different ideas for visual ideas.
And again, exploring these right now. Let's say you don't use it. You go back and choose what you did before. That's fine. But you've drawn it and you've thought about it and you've experienced it. So then the next time something happens, the next time you write another story or later on in this story, a similar type of situation might happen. Now oh, shoot, I did that earlier, but I didn't do that. Maybe I can do it now. Right? All of this is exploration. All of this is helpful. So don't ever shy away from really taking the time and really sinking your teeth into it. Don't just, first image you come up, draw it, sketch it out, draw it, and then move to the next page. There's no rush. There is absolutely no rush. And what you're doing is you're doing a disservice to your story, because your story is solid and it can be even more, which is the powerful part, right? So just here we're saying that the blood drop or drop, and if it could be like the whole face. Now again, now I'm looking at this. What is this? This could be a horizontal panel, right? So if that's a horizontal panel, and I'm going, okay, all right, well, I got 3 horizontal, maybe, well, I could start off with 3 panels like this, and then, have the eye. And then I can even go do what you did, where the first time we see the eye, it's a little bit wider, and as we see the eye, the next time we get a little bit closer, and then as we get, so now we're zooming in a little bit, right? You guys see that? If that's 3 panels back to back to back. And then we can go, and then we just end with this.
You can train your brain to think this way. So every time a writer gives you a scene, you automatically, very quickly, within the first minute, run through all of these in your head, because you've done it in the past. It's kind of like a pre-prescribed procedure. You run every story through, and then you instantly come up with like a dozen different scenarios, and then you can just start drawing. Unless you engage this type of free association, it doesn't come naturally. So some of like the best comic book artists, they can sit down and, like Barry Windsor Smith, I saw him just read a script and then off the top of his head come up with the coolest idea, just because he did it every day for years. And your brain just automatically, you don't have to kind of go through this process of actually drawing it out. It just happens within minutes in your head before you start drawing. It's kind of cool. Like if that blood drop goes into his eye, but he doesn't blink, it means that he died with his eyes open.
Yeah, and he could be dead.
It kind of says things like that, yeah.
And he's paralyzed. I mean, Sean Barker, but he could be paralyzed, and that would be, and you really feel like, oh, it's like struggling, right? You feel his struggle without even having to show, but just doing it in the eyes. So there's a lot of different. I mean, you can use a hand, you can use his foot, you can use different things. It's let's say if we want to do the opposite of that, and we just want to do Julio, we just, I don't know, I mean, maybe not, that's not as dramatic, but there's a good start to what you're doing, Dr. Midnight, and I would challenge you to really take it to the next level and really sit yourself in the story. Sit yourself in that place, in that moment, and think about different ways of telling the same story. And then go back and then choose which ones you like, which one you think is fitting. And then the next step is also then the drawing aspect of that. Right. But the storytelling key, that is going to be unique. That is something that you can apply to many different fields. This is like what we're doing. We're talking about really a lot of it is storyboarding, choreography. So this process of thinking about the story and how you want to tell the different angles, different cameras, different camera shots, different perspectives. Perspective meaning from the perspective of the flipper off guy, or the perspective of Julio, or the perspective of a bird or an insect or a deer in the forest. Just looking at this, now we've been talking about from the perspective. I'm thinking if I move back to an earlier sequence, if I move back to the first page, you know, one of the ideas I just thought of, okay, what about, let me add another scene. Could have been, let me choose a bigger brush. I think we're going to get out of here after this. Simple Man, I don't think we're going to be able to get to your stuff today, but
Just a deer.
huh?
You're drawing a deer?
I'm drawing a deer, yeah.
This is a deer's eye view.
Deer's eye view. Right? Of the first sequence with the cars. So, again, and then from here, from this shot, then we can go into
Seems like possibilities are endless. So
right, yeah. So again, the same story, but we've already had like 5 or 6 different perspectives, different ways of telling it from different vantage points. So, and this is the same thing I've said to Simple Man, is that, you know, he has a football story, which I also think is pretty awesome. But instead of rushing to get to the finished page, because we're all used to seeing comic books and seeing finished drawn pages, inked pages, because you want to feel like, okay, this is a finished story, or but you're not doing service to the story. You're actually, I think, not paying respect to your story.
I mean, I get it, in that every time you go and shoot for an unusual shot that is packed full of emotion and impact, it's harder to draw. And it's already hard enough to draw. And then you're picking at, you know, looking up at the guy through his nose or something, or having the sunlight wrap around his body so his face is partially obscured in silhouette. That just makes things 10 times harder. But you can appreciate the people who try and it doesn't work out, but at least they tried. And yeah, it's better to go for that weird shot, even though it's harder to draw.
Here's another angle, right? We're on the road, kind of right down by the tire, and we see the reflection on the rear view mirror.
Oh, that's Julio in the car.
Or Julio.
Someone in the car
Yeah.
that you can see in his rearview mirror.
And then later on, and then from afar, we see the road. And again, it doesn't have to be a flat road. Is it a flat road? Is Massachusetts flat? I don't think so.
In general,
Is it?
yeah, flat is not good in general. I mean, unless you're Mobius, you can't make flat look really cool. So anytime you can make the terrain have lots of different lifts and levels.
Right? And you can see the car in the background. Coming. And then maybe if it's Massachusetts, there's Boston in the background. So we know that we're outside the city somewhere. All of these things, hilly. So there we go, right? Hilly.
The cityscape in the background.
Yeah, little
The
cities.
depth of field is pretty cool. Like if you imagine like something is, from the viewer's point of view, you can reach out and touch the car with your hand. And then the furthest thing out there is 1,000 miles away. It's all in one panel.
And so these are all elements. Right now we're telling in one image, a car, there's another car, this is our main protagonist right here, depending on how you want to get detailed. You can even put like some leaves on the ground so that we know, oh, it's fall, right? Or it's some birds or whatever, a cloud, city in the background, Boston or something. Maybe he drove by, and we can do like he just killed a bug because he's so emotionless. What's something else about Julio like you can tell us visually to show that this guy is emotionless? So maybe he drove by already. He reached there and he drove over like, I don't know, I want to say like a roadkill, but I think that's maybe a little too off. But like, I don't know, crushed a couple bugs or something, right? What are other things you can tell us that really layers the story, that gives it so much more of volume, that when I'm looking at this drawing, all of these things I'm soaking in, because you've fully realized it for me. And as a reader, now I can go in and pick out all the details, look at the line work, look at the drawing, look at the trees, look at the leaves, the rocks, whatever it is, all of these things. Then I can really begin to enjoy. And now I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be a peaceful kind of scenario. Where's the story going to go? Boom! I get hit by a truck on the next page. So it really is, again, taking a moment back, slow down, think about all these things. You've written the story already. Now, how do you tell it? I think I'm repeating myself. So, on that note, anything else, Sean?
R.I.P. Ed Piscor.
Yeah. You want to talk about that a little bit, or?
No, not really. I mean, he was a nice guy. I had met him a few times. I always thought he was incredibly cool. So it was just kind of a shock. But
it is. It's sad. I've never met him. It's we hate to end on this note, but I do think we need to talk about it a little bit. It's kind of fucked up. Oh, no wonder, Sean. There's been some technical difficulties. Somebody's been hiding with.
I just checked in.
Okay. All
about
right.
a half hour ago.
Oh, there we go.
So, Fletch, did you know Ed?
I did not know Ed, but it's just awful to think that that he found no alternative than to take his life. Is that's just very exciting and sad to think about.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, he had so many people that he had a big family that cared about him. I would never understand people who do this, but I mean, what he was facing was just really just the ugliest part of our business.
Right.
I'm sorry. Who was this?
He's an
For the
artist.
people who haven't heard, I'm so sorry.
His artist's name is Ed Piscor, and a very popular YouTube with Jim Rugg, fellow artist. And about a week or two ago, he was accused of grooming, I guess, or hitting on a 17-year-old girl. In his final suicide note, he said that he was just trying to pay it forward, as far as he had no sexual intentions, but he saw a young artist that he believed in, and he may have said wrong thing, jokingly, but he absolutely got crucified over it. Well, words, but he the internet was all over him, and it resulted in him losing a big deal with Abrams. He had a gallery to showcase his work, and that was canceled. And then his podcast, his partner said he won't be doing the podcast with him anymore. So he kind of lost everything. And his last word, his last note said that comics were his everything, was his whole world, and for this to happen, no other choice. But to take this route, which is depressing.
Yeah, very much so.
I don't know if he's innocent or guilty or whatever, but it seemed like the court of public opinion went, against him fast.
Well, the whole thing of grooming nowadays is everybody's so touchy on it, but it's hard. There is that fine line of finding young artists around that age, around teenage age, and that's when they really decide to become artists. So whether it was just something super friendly, or if he crossed the line, hopefully that didn't happen. But once it gets wind on the internet, it's just like it's like that keyword. Everybody loves to, call it out, wherever it is. If anyone is, older, and if they're dealing with like a younger person, then that's definitely a hot topic.
I mean, the grooming aspect was one thing, and then there was a lot of other people that piled on with other accusations that supposedly were unfounded or were made up later on. And, he also, there was a local TV show that showed up at his house.
Oh my God.
They were interviewing his parents, or wanted to, so he just became something just completely overwhelmed his family. And so.
Oh, he just became a target.
I mean, it's interesting. Like before all of this, a few days ago, I was just thinking, like, back in the day of message boards and AOL, you had to go home, you had to get on your modem, log in, you had limited time every month to access the internet, you had to find the message board or message room and chat, and then post and then type something in there. And nowadays it's you have your phone with you all the time, so you can very easily express your point of view, and on social media it's very often to be sometimes overly expressive without really kind of contemplating the circumstances. And so I've never. You met him in Baltimore, Sean, or was that?
A few times, and I think he on his show, like one time he mentioned the fact that he's so into this business, and he saw me teaching my son Travis, and he was listening in on the lesson, and he was just very positive about how this is the new generation of comics. This is how it happens. Like you kind of pass it down generation by generation, and he spoke about it. Every time I see him, he asks me how my son is doing. So when I told him that he's looking for colleges now, he practically fell on the floor because it seemed like time flew so quickly. But yeah, he's always a really great guy, and I always talk about his show. And every time I want to talk about his show, he always want to talk about my experience in Valiant and all that stuff, because he's always digging into comic book history and trying to build this one big picture of the whole industry and the lore from the industry from the beginning times. So he was a real, like that comic I did, Wingman, that I did was really inspired by those guys. I quit comics, and then when I started seeing them on YouTube, I'm like, I quit for the dumbest reason of all, because these guys tell me that this is an art form worth fighting for. So I kind of got back in. So I told him that, and then he just wanted to know more about the history of Valiant and stuff. But great guys. But I watched that show every day because it was a daily podcast type thing, a YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I'm curious. Apparently, they had a bunch of shows queued up. So I'm wondering if they're going to continue to release those shows, or what's going to happen now. But I mean, that's secondary to everything that's happened. So it's unfortunate, a very sad day, and I don't really know if there's any right, wrong perspective or angle on this. It's really just a lose-lose kind of situation.
Oh yeah, I one thing is anybody out there who's has any problems or troubles, don't ever think that you're alone. There's always somebody you can call. There's a suicide hotline too, and I just like I said, I just can't believe that he didn't find he found no other avenue but to take this route. But yeah, it's so sad. He leaves behind a lot of people, a lot of people that cared about him. Anyway, not to change the subject, but Bernard, how is you have any? How's the family over in Taipei, Taiwan?
It's
right?
good. I mean,
Sure.
I was up this morning when the earthquake hit, and
Yeah.
it was a long earthquake and it was very smooth. I don't know if it's a rolling earthquake, but
It was a rolling rather than a shaker, right?
yeah, it didn't feel like it was. Yeah, it was very smooth. Was the best way I could describe it. It was just very long, and it was a little. I don't know if anybody's ever been in an earthquake. I mean, in LA, I've been experienced a few, but they've been very short, a few seconds.
Yeah.
This one, I think, was maybe half a minute, and again, half a minute doesn't sound like it's really long, but when you don't know if it's ever going to stop, that's when it can be a little daunting. So.
It was back. There's two of them, right? 7.4 and a 6.5 or something.
I don't know. There's been
I'm not sure
aftershocks all day. So earlier, just on the stream, there were about 2 or 3 aftershocks. So
Crazy.
yeah, who knows what's gonna happen later. Hopefully everybody's safe. There was a building that fell down. If you guys are curious, that was in Hualien, which is the eastern coast of Taiwan. We're on the northwestern coast of Taiwan. There was another earthquake in Hualien like a year ago or so, or 2 years ago. That one, I think a few people had passed away. Some of these buildings, collapsed. So as the day goes by, I'm sure there's going to be more news about what's happening, and I can hear the news going on downstairs. Sharon has the news on, so I'm curious to go down there after we get off stream, see what's happened.
I think one of the most fascinating things about where you live, the western part of, with Taipei 101 and everything, is that the modern buildings that are building right now are so to like earthquake code. Like the building itself for Taipei 101 is like it has a damper feel or something inside the building.
Seen that. Yeah, you can. There are pictures of it. It's like a huge counterweight.
Yeah, it's like a middle
some
ball.
kind of lubricated pad.
Yeah.
I actually bought when I was there my first time, we toured, Taipei 101. There's a little mascot, the damper baby.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You only showed me the set of chopsticks you stole.
With teaspoon, chopsticks.
Yeah.
But I'm glad everybody's okay. And it was some crazy images from the east side of Taipei. I was looking at the news. It's crazy.
Well, all right. Well, let's get out of here. R.I.P. Ed Piscor. I'm sure we'll talk about him a little bit more in upcoming streams.
Yeah. R.I.P. MD Bright too.
Yeah, MD Bright. I mean, that's the other thing. Grew up reading a lot of MD Bright books. The Armor Wars was probably the first time. Also, I think did he draw Transformers? Was he a Transformers?
So.
Yeah,
I know he drew Green Lantern.
Green Lantern. He also helped. He was one of the first artists at Milestone.
Right.
I know Bob Layden was a big collaborator with him during the Iron Man days, and distinctly he had this kind of style that was very solid, very thick, almost like toys. Like they felt like almost like G.I. Joe figures.
But to what you had before, his style also dynamic. Like there's always stuff happening on the page, moving. A little good line.
So, anyways, let's see. Should we raid some? I don't know if I can raid anybody. Let me see.
People like this type of storytelling, panel composition thing. So we should do like a more of those. So everyone to come back and we'll do less goofing around and more educational content.
I'm here for the goofing around. Whoa.
And can somebody gift Fletch a new mobile subscription? I mean, Fletch, you gotta get off of the Boost Mobile.
I just upgraded my Netgear. Come on.
I know you're a really big fan of that Deadpool actor. What's his name?
The what?
The Deadpool actor who has his own.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. Doesn't Ryan Reynolds have his own mobile service? I know you're a big fan of him, so. But
no, it just one spot in my apartment that just it comes in and out.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, everywhere you go.
Mint Mobile, simple message. Mint Mobile.
Really, just my sister to a newer Ethernet stuff. So.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we believe you. Sure. Let's see if we can we raid somebody? Let's see, who can we raid? Amaranth? Can I raid from this? Let me see.
Content warning.
Asian Bunny X.
Asian Bunny X?
A little Sugoi has a content warning.
Cody Shibi. Who do we have? Saberpunk. Anybody have suggestions in chat? Yeah, join the 5G revolution, Fletch. Fletch is still on the 14.4 modem. You gotta dial up. You gotta.
James Cole has a suggestion.
Okay.
Surrounded by
what's James
Surrounded
Cole's?
by
haters.
Yeah, we didn't hear that you said haters. Is it literally like?
I thought you said you're surrounded by penguins.
Luyanabis.
I hope she's in Western Taiwan.
Luyanabis. Is this Luyanabis? She has some Taiwanese news on. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week. Simple Man, send me your story.
You're up next.
Yeah, you're up next, Simple Man. And Dr. Minna, I'm gonna get through the other. There's the next sequence where the kids are, where the guy gets beat up. Kind of want to go over that, and a lot of that is the same thing. So, all right, let's happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Wait, why isn't this rating yet?
Is it over like 18 and up?
Oh, raid now. Well, I'm going off of my mobile, so I don't know how the. I might just sign off. I don't. Is it working? Are we rating?
No,
No.
not yet.
Oh, I still need 32 seconds. Oh, it's taking a while to load. All right. How can we kill some time? 20 seconds left. Oh.
We missed your WonderCon this weekend, Bernard.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. How was that?
It was good. It was Saturday was busy. Friday and Sunday were a little bit lighter than last year, I think.
Oh, really?
But I think it's Easter and also the rain.
Yeah, the weather was bad.
Yes.
It rained?
Yeah.
It was bad. Yeah, there was a storm on Saturday. It was not good.
Okay.
Saturday and Sunday.
I think we're out.
Yeah.
Are we
What
out?
is that message?
Okay, yeah.
Interesting. Oh, its content is intended for certain audiences. It gave me a warning.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why you couldn't get it.
Start watching. What is this?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't look like anything bad. It looks like a lot of Chinese.
Wait, is it